On today's episode of the Critical Mass Podcast, we are talking about eminent domain and its effect on Black communities. Stick around. This is a conversation that matters. Welcome to the Critical Mass Podcast, where we discuss all things ADOS and work to build the critical mass needed to fight for reparations and a transformative Black agenda. I am your host, Simeon, and today's episode is being sponsored by the ADOS Advocacy Foundation. For centuries, Black land ownership has been a symbol of freedom, self-sufficiency, and generational wealth. But time and again, that land, hard earned and carefully passed down, has been taken, not by force in the traditional sense, but through a legal mechanism known as eminent domain. The government's power to seize private property for public use has been justified as progress, highways, parks, infrastructure. But for Black landowners, it has often meant displacement, economic devastation, and the erasure of entire communities. From the construction of the interstate highway system that bulldozed Black neighborhoods in the 50s and 60s, to the forced removals of families from the land that they had owned for generations, eminent domain has been wielded as a tool of systemic dispossession. Some examples of how the interstate has been weaponized, or eminent domain has been weaponized to build interstates through thriving Black communities. You could look at the 7th Ward in New Orleans, the I-10 overpass known as the Claiborne Expressway. That was built in 1968, and it got rid of a whole part of the 7th Ward. And of course, that's a Black area. We could go to West Baltimore. You have State Route 40. Locals refer to it as the road to nowhere. That too went through a Black area. You had Interstate 20 in Atlanta. You had I-579 in Pittsburgh's Hill District. We could talk about I-94 in St. Paul, Minnesota. It split the Rondo neighborhood in half. You could talk about I-375 in Detroit. It crushed Paradise Valley and the Black Bottom. Interstate I-95 or I-95 in Miami. It pillaged through Miami's Overtown neighborhood. Interstate 65 and 85 in Montgomery, Alabama, an area that I grew up in. That interstate was actually rerouted to go through prominent Black areas as retaliation to the civil rights movement. Now, not only did they mess with us via eminent domain in urban settings or in the city settings, we also had issues in farming, whether it be eminent domain or racist practices from the USDA. Uh, Farming has been another area where we've had land dispossessed from us. In the 1920s, there were nearly 1 million Black farmers in the United States. Today, that number has plummeted to a mere 45,000, and that only represents 1.3% of the country's 3.4 million people in the farming occupation. This disappearance of Black farmers coincided with the vast dispossession of land that they once owned. In 2017, the Census of Agriculture, it revealed that over the last century, Black farmers have had 12 million acres stripped away from them, or approximately 90% of their formerly owned farmland. That loss, it drastically eclipses the only 2% loss of land by white farmers during that same time. And much of it happened in a very, very short period of time. From 1950 to 1969, Black farmers would be forced to forego 6 million acres of land. That averages out to upwards of 820 acres per day. So we're talking about something the size of Central Park in New York per day. In Mississippi alone, Black farmers were subject to a loss of 800,000 acres during that same period of time. And if you look from the 60s, in the 60s, you really had cotton farms for Black farmers completely disappear. There were 87,000, and now just over 3,000. So we're really talking about a long history of racism and land dispossession. The Georgia chapter of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation was made aware of a situation in Georgia. And in Georgia, they had a group of families in Sparta, Georgia, which is in Hancock County, a group of families who were being forced are being pushed to lose part of their land via eminent domain to a railroad company. The railroad company wants to run land directly or wants to run rail directly through a lot of residents' land in that area, with a large amount of those residents being Black residents. A large amount of that land being land that Black families have passed down for generations. And when the Georgia chapter of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, and shout out to all of those great volunteers in Georgia, when the Georgia chapter of the ADOS Advocacy Foundation found out, they went down to Sparta to start to talk to some residents. And one of the residents and organizers that we ended up talking to was a wonderful lady named Miss Janet Paige-Smith. And so we're blessed today to have Miss Janet Paige-Smith here with us. So I'm bringing you on, Miss Smith. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, Simeon, and thank you all so much in your organization for what you all have already done for us and are doing for us.
Thank you, and we really appreciate you sounding this alarm because it seems all too familiar in Black families. I know when me and you talked over the phone, I was talking about some land dispossessions that my family had experienced due to USDA racism that later saw a lawsuit called Pigford versus
Like,
Glick,
hmm
and the history of losing land. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and where you are and what's going on in Sparta, Georgia?
Well, currently, uh, first of all, I have to tell you, I'm a veteran. I'm a United States Army veteran.
Thank
I
you for your
served.
service.
Thank you. I served in the military, the Army, for 12 years. Started off as an air defense artillery officer and later became a signal officer. And I come from a long line of veterans. My father, I'm also an Army brat, as they call us. And my grandfather served. My husband is also a veteran, and I have two sons that have served in the military. So that's been a big part of my life. And one of the reasons in 1992 that my husband and I decided to leave the military after starting our family with our children, I just will regress for a minute and say when I first met my husband after graduating from the University of Georgia, and he brought me through this little bitty small town, and he took me, we went through a town with two red lights, and by the way, we still have two red lights here. And he took me out into the country. Well, actually, if you're a city, he took me out where I could see cows. I saw cows, lots of land, and lots of trees. And I was wondering where we were going. And we pulled up into this nice, beautiful white house with a wraparound porch and a huge garden in the back. Um, and our first date actually was fishing, and I fell in love with it. I said, "This is wonderful." And as he went around introducing me to people, he was like, "Oh, this was a person in kindergarten with this person, first grade." And I was like, "How did you know? You know all these people forever? How's this?" So anyway, first assignment took us to Fort Bliss, Texas, and then we went to Germany. Then we came back to Fort Gordon. And by this time, we've got baby number two. And I'm saying, you know what? Ready to go home, ready to find home. Let's go back. And that's how we landed here in 1992 and both became educators and school teachers. And that's how we retired. Uh, Little did I know that there was so much heritage left here that my husband had, family history he had here. As years progressed and I became to know more people, and people would come up to our homes and they would say, "Oh, the Smith family." They would say, "My grandfather worked here. My grandfather worked on the place," and we actually lived in one of the homes on the place, and they would express how wonderful that was during the 60s and the 50s and 30s, when poverty was so prevalent, not here, just in Hancock County, but all over this country, even in the 20s, when my husband's grandfather, who is the one that purchased all this property almost 100 years ago, was able to provide for not only his family, but a community, an entire county of African Americans who at that time had no way to work for their living other than to be sharecroppers. So we came back here in 1992 and raised our three children here, and became I became, my husband was already very familiar with the community, but being a child and being a service member who's traveled all of my life, I became part of the richness of this community and the culture and all the old stories and the recipes and all the things that make make being an African American descendant of a slave, which I'm very proud of being, for one. I am very proud of that legacy, making us so rich and making us so diverse. And then having land where we could give back, even today, having land where families, African American families, don't always have places where they can go fish and hunt and hike, but because we have that, we've been blessed with that, we can offer that opportunity. So that's just a little bit about how we came back here in 92 to raise our family, to work, and to give back.
Now, the land, it was in your husband's family before 92. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, sir.
That was
Yes,
since
sir. Yes, sir.
1926 or so?
1926. We've
Okay.
come on a 100-year anniversary here.
Mm,
Yes, sir.
mm,
That is absolutely correct. In fact, we still have those who I'd like to define those terms, being a retired school teacher, because I didn't know what home place was. I didn't know what home house was. That's where you grew up when you were little, when you were a child.
mhm,
You, from the hospital, your parents brought you home, and you did K through 12 there. And and when you went away from home and into adulthood, this is a place you came back to. And I know a lot of people don't have that. I know, especially military people, but
mhm,
military children, but a lot of folks don't have their home where they were grown, they grew up in their neighborhood. Um,
mhm,
and they could go back and sleep in the same house, the same bed, walk around, you know,
mhm,
and see the things. What makes this place extra unique is there's a home house. There's the home house that my husband's father was raised in,
mhm.
if that's believable, on the same property.
So we're
And
really talking about all of the, like, there's still history there.
totally, yes,
There's still something
Yes,
that shows that generations were there, and that
right.
that land provided sustenance for a whole family plus some.
Plus a community,
A
plus
community,
a
yeah.
county, plus
Mm,
people who were born and reared and raised here, and they come back here because they remember the Smith family. And up until this uh, eminent domain case, we did not know that. And one of the attorneys said, Ms. Smith, we need some more research, or the Smith family, we need research. And by the way, we did have to produce a deed. We did have to produce a deed. I know there's so many land cases right now involving Black families because Big Ma had the Bible, and Big Ma, the owner wrote something in the Bible or gave her a letter, or she wrote it down the day he said, "This is yours." And now, through eminent domain and people seeking land, their only thing they have after she's passed away is this Bible and this letter, but it's not a deed.
yeah, it was never
It's
recorded by the
it,
county. It's not a deed, absolutely.
and that is a problem. Or we have situations where we have air property, which is not the case here. You better believe Mr. Tarbut, and we'll talk about him later, that he looked through every avenue that he could to legitimately get this property. That's another one, air property. It is not air property. It was deeded to 6 children, whom only 3 are surviving. And one of them is actually the first grandchild to inherit his land since his mother's death. So we don't have a situation where somebody sold out and Mr. Tarbutton bought their piece, and now we're all left hanging. We don't have that. We have 600 acres, and we were able to research that and find that in Hancock County, that we own the largest tract of land here. Now, this case, that's why this case is so important. It's not just about um, this private railroad owner coming in here saying he has the right to take it and creating this case, or building a case because he didn't have it before, that he has public use. This is about an African American family that's getting ready. If we're praying to God and asking God. That's why we've been in a fight for 3 years, only because of God. I want to make that clear to everybody. There's no way
Mhm.
in the world we could have paid an attorney for 3 years to fight this private railroad owner. So don't ever give up on what you have. So he's made this case, but now you've taken, in Hancock County, one of the largest Black counties here in the state of Georgia, possibly the country. You're now taking a part of their land. You're desecrating it. I'm going to use that word. You are desecrating this land with a train, and you're convincing, you're going through the court systems to say, oh, it's only a little strip. It's only a little
Mhm.
strip. I'm only taking a mile. I'm only minimizing what we as African Americans have fought for.
Yeah, and just to give our listeners some context, when you're talking about 600 acres, you're talking about approximately 455 football fields combined.
Right,
The average football field is 1.3 acres, an acre and a third, or one and a
right,
third acres. So you're
right.
talking about over 455 football fields combined. And I don't know about any of you all, but if you've ever lived close to a railroad, it isn't the most pleasant experience. And so, if you're talking about running a railroad through somebody's land, to say that I'm only going to take a mile, and I just want y'all to think about like a mile's worth of land, a mile's worth of land. That completely impacts how you could use your land. Am I correct in that?
That is correct. That is
Mhm.
correct. That is
N-
correct. And not only that, we have, and this is not a new term, it's an old term. It's called environmental injustice.
That's right.
That's the other part, environmental injustice. And Simeon, we talked before we came on about a quarry. We have a quarry. Let me let me correct that. We have two quarries
And this is
within
for rock, correct? This is a rock
rock
quarry.
quarry,
Okay.
quarries, granite rock quarries in our county, but within 5 miles of our home. You say, oh my gosh, why did y'all go build a house near a quarry? Nope, it wasn't there
Y'all were
like
there
that.
first. Y'all were
We
there
were there
first.
first.
That's right.
We were here first. And I said, my planning and zoning in your community, you better know what's going on. You better go find out, attend commissioners meetings. I was guilty. I was guilty of it. I just said, hey, I'm in a safe place. Can't anybody we own this land. Thank you, Lord Jesus. No one can take it away from us. Ah, except in the United States of America through eminent domain. All right. So we paid our taxes. We've done our due diligence to take care of the land. Not only is it 600 acres, it has a beautiful stream that flows through it and two ponds, which he had the audacity, the initial route, to run a train through these two beautiful ponds. Okay. So I was saying all that to say now there's a CXX train that's already transporting rocks from Vulcan. And these are two quarries, Heidelberg and Vulcan, foreign owned. And he has partnered with Heidelberg Quarry. That's the whole purpose of the train, is to go to a quarry and take rock out of that quarry and take it over to another train, the CXX, a major train, which he says he has the same rights as this national train line.
So basically, real quick, sorry to interrupt, but so you have foreign companies
Yes,
shipping out granite to suburban moms for their kitchen across the country,
yes, sir.
uh,
And swimming
taking
pools and
that's right,
anything else, granted, rock.
and taking land from descendants
Yes,
of slavery,
yes,
taking land from community members.
yes,
I'd argue it's anti-American.
totally. Yes,
You have a situation where a foreign company is able to come in,
yes,
and a railroad company wanting to partner with them, a multi-generational railroad company wanting to
yes,
partner with them,
yes,
and their desire to make even more money, they're willing to disenfranchise an entire community, and upset the way of life for Black Americans who descend from slavery in that area. Now,
yes.
in addition to um, you and your family, there are
Mhm.
other families well who are fighting this, and you all are working in concert, correct?
Right. My husband and I formed this coalition in 2002. We formed this coalition when we received our letter in April of 2022. I'm sorry, let me make that clear. I'm holding this letter up here in 2022, April the 4th. So we're past the 3-year mark. Now, this is how we were notified of eminent domain, through a letter, not through a community meeting, town hall meeting, not through a planning and zoning meeting, not that our board of commissioners who know us, know the family, call us on the phone and say, hey, your life, we got this guy coming through there. And what you think about that? Giving up your land? No, none of that.
So
We got a letter.
they avoided you all having a direct say in front of officials
Totally,
that you all elect.
totally,
Mhm. That's
totally.
horrible. That's
Totally. It is
horrible.
horrible, but we all came together the last election and got rid of them.
That's
We
right.
came together.
You
And I
know,
tell you, that's powerful to come together as African Americans who don't traditionally vote. And when they found out about this, they said, that's enough. That's enough.
one of the things from the ADOS Advocacy Foundation perspective is that we have to get involved in politics at all levels.
That's right.
We have to get involved locally, we have to get involved on the state level, and we have to get involved on the federal level. And so I love this example of the community coming together to say we deserve better from our elected officials in this
Right.
moment. Now, in terms of the other families, there are also some white families that are in coalition with you all to save their land as well, correct?
That's correct. That is correct. The land that, uh, what it is, the way it is, Simeon, is he needs, he needs, I think it's 8 tracts of land. And the way it is we have a white family, the Griggs family, and I can use their name, the Griggs family to the left of us, and we have the Garrett family to the right of us. Now, the Garrett family is a white family, and they're historical. They've been there for a long time too. My husband grew up with the children there, and they are part of this too. They also received a letter. We didn't know what happened is when we got our letter and we contacted our family members, the Garretts came and said, hey, did you get a letter? And we're like, yeah, we got a letter. And so then we reached out to the property owners that were near us and found out who all got the letter. We all got the same letter. And at that time, my husband and I stepped up to the plate, and they said, look, we said, we got to come together, you all. We got to come together. There was the Garretts had already commissioned, hired an attorney prior to this. And they said, look, our savings, our money's gone. We can't fight him. And we're like, we can't begin to fight him if you've been trying to fight him. So we all came together, and my husband and I took on the leadership of No Railroad in our community. And that's how just the property owners. So what I did was I said, there's got to be more people, because when we finally got the route, Simeon, I said, there's got to be more people involved in this to get to the quarry. So I go down the country miles and I start knocking on doors, and I find out nobody knew about it. They never got a letter. Now that was very insulting, and it was very hurtful to them, because I said, wonder why they didn't get a letter. Then we found out that they did not own the property that he needed for the train. Now, if you're in rural Georgia, you have to understand that people, sometimes their homes, their larger property owners, which this one particular one was, owned your backyard. They literally can own your backyard. You can step off your deck, take about 10, 15 feet, and there's trees. And it looks like it belongs to you, but it doesn't.
It doesn't, right?
And that's where he had a situation. He had a situation where he's going to lease with the people behind him, lease now their property, lease the property of this one landowner who owns, he's white, and he owns over 1,000 acres of land, and he's going to lease his land. What a slap in the face. He's going to take ours through eminent domain and lease this other guy's, and this person's land sits on the quarry. Okay, the quarry. So logistically, this is supposed to work. Logistically, for him, the train owner, I take these 8 tracts of land. The other folks don't have any say. So I use a lifetime lease with this white landowner and another landowner, and I got it. So, like I said, these folks are saying, I don't know anything about it. Okay, all of us, come on, let's come together. Let's come together. 50 families now, over 50 families. Okay. So that's how No Railroad in Our Community Coalition was formed. We all came together. I spent 3 days, 3 nights. My husband said, look, looking for any organization that had an attorney that could represent us. And the first organization was the Southern Poverty Law Center. They came on board, and then they saw that they needed some assistance. They needed some help with this eminent domain, and they reached out to the Institute for Justice.
I'm so disheartened by hearing, so some family or a family is going to be able to build generational wealth
Correct.
through a land lease
Correct.
from their railroad, and they're snatching generational wealth from you and
Right.
trying to affect you all's way of life, which to me again is anti-American. It is not. It is not. It does not represent the principles that this country was supposedly founded on. But we also know that it represents how we're treated in this same country very well.
That's right.
It
That's
it
right.
represents how we're treated really, in this same place, because here we are. They could have an equal standard that
Right.
allowed for them to rightfully compensate via a
Right.
lease larger landowners and other landowners. And I
Right.
argue that if you and your family as a 600-acre landowner isn't able to fight this, no one else can.
Yeah. Yes.
No one else can.
Right.
And so that's really horrible to hear.
Black or white,
Black
Simeon.
or white.
Black or
That's right.
white.
That's
The
right.
average American, we're retired. We're retired school teachers. We're retired military. How, if we're sitting here 3 years, and I do want to make this point, it was one man who made the decision to give Benjamin Tarbutton public use. One man whose organization, the Public Service Commission. And if Georgians are listening to this, they need to listen to this, because this is a year to vote out 2 of those public service commissioners. But one man, he's called a hearing officer, and that organization receives political campaign money from the Tarbuttons. And they were allowed to make that decision. How come we couldn't give them some campaign money? How come we didn't have that opportunity to give campaign money?
We know why, because that wealth has been stripped generation after generation after generation. And
Right.
the person who is probably part of a family that helped strip it is trying to strip it again in today's generation. Isn't that something?
And he is third generation railroad owner. He's
Third
third
generation
generation.
railroad owner.
He's third generation railroad owner. He's got plenty. He has enough. We're down here, we're down here living on retirement checks, and my community members don't make retirement checks, don't draw the retirement checks like my husband and I do. And I said this before the show. Why do we do what we do? Why do my husband and I do? Why do we do what we do? Because to whom, the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. And to whom much more. There's a much more part of that. And we feel like it is our Christian duty, civic duty, to help people, because this is critical to all the listeners. This is critical. If he gets our land through eminent domain, he's going to get the backyards of 50 families. 50 families who have no say it, he's going to get it. And that to me is worth staying up at night, doing podcasts, prayer rallies, going to the Capitol building, reaching out to anyone and everybody to help us. Those 50 families who are direct descendants of slaves. They are direct descendants of slaves. You asked me before the show about the slavery. Hancock, a little bit about Hancock County. And it's probably a very rare county, one of the very few counties in the whole United States. It says it's part of the it's part of the Black Belt, and it was named for its rich dark soil. This is in the 1500s, okay? And it was known for its rich black soil for growing cotton, and it was heavily reliant on slavery. We can track in our family a great great grandmother back to slavery, a Dixon plantation. All right. And some of these, all of the majority of these families here can trace their families back to slavery. Now, why are they still here? Many of them never left.
It's their home.
That's right. They never
Nonetheless, it's their
left.
home. That's right.
And if you don't want to leave your home, you shouldn't have to leave your home.
You
They
shouldn't have
form,
to.
that's right. They form communities here. That our particular uh, community is named after a church that was established in 1856, the St. Galilee community. They formed communities here. Guess what? They went to the schools here that were built on the same ground as the churches here. They were able to make a living from the land here. Okay. And so they stayed, their children stayed and grew up here and went to school here. And so, therefore, and then when sharecropping came along, they stayed here. And some of the people who were interviewed by ADOS when they came down here were sharecroppers when they were children. Their parents were sharecroppers. So, why should they be displaced? I said it at the Capitol that we're going to be displaced. They live closer to the rock quarry than I do. And that's another whole issue. We're fighting a rock quarry down here now, trying to get them out of our neighborhood.
Now, that rock quarry has also damaged some homes, correct?
Absolutely. At Heidelberg, the world's largest. Why are they down here? There's our commissioners allowed a small quarry that was back in 1982. It was like a little small quarry for headstones. And back then, the granite business wasn't that great. So they just had that little business. But as the granite business grew, well, so did these producers or these companies. They said, hey, well, we'll take it. And we do live on a 40-mile rock, by the way, granite. There's a lot of granite rock right here in this community. So these quarries were sold. They were sold to each other. They were when one moved on, another one came in. But here's insult to injury. During the time when we were fighting for our properties, and we're still fighting for our property, Heidelberg Quarry comes in and buys the quarry from Hanson Quarry. That's why they call it Hanson Spur, and purchase it unbeknownst to us. So they're here for I don't know how long. So we're trying right now to get rid of them. And they have partnered with Sandersville Railroad. Now we've got a wealthy private railroad owner. We've got the world's largest quarry owners. They're partnering up against what? A predominantly Black community.
Big business.
Is that not sad?
Yeah, you have big business attacking average Americans, and in this case, Black Americans who descend from slavery in their ancestral homes.
Yes.
and on their ancestral
The
land.
land.
Um, I
Yes.
saw some pictures, some of the pictures that I saw from the team of ADOS volunteers, ADOS Advocacy Foundation volunteers who went down to
Hmm.
Georgia, went down to
Hmm.
Sparta. They
Hmm.
were showing the damage to the homes,
Yes.
and some of how there's so much shaking and drilling that it
Yes.
affects the homes. And
Yes.
so to add insult to that, we want to increase they want to increase the capacity of moving stuff out of it so they can drill longer, more, faster,
Right.
get more stuff out.
Right.
uh and so I can only imagine having a railroad going through all times of night on your property might make your stay less hospitable in your home. So um, I think that that's just horrible. Another picture that I saw was of a Confederate monument, I believe,
Yes.
in the town. Can you tell me a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Oh, yes. I tell you, um, again, that's a fight all by itself, but it is right in the middle. Any way you enter Hancock County, well, through from coming from Atlanta, you're going to see that memorial, that Confederate memorial, and it is directly in front of the courthouse. Now, I do believe we need to have an educational session for Black African Americans so they'll know what those Confederate memorials look like and what they represent. And I myself did not realize what that was for a while living here. And now that I know that, I try to impress that upon everybody in Hancock County. That's going to be our next. That's going to be our next mission, Simeon, is to get rid of that.
That's right.
That we got to come together. And I was told that that Confederate memorial is sitting on the slave block. If you don't know what that is, that slave block, now you help me out too, is where slaves were brought in from the port,
Port
transported,
being Savannah, right?
Savannah,
The port being Savannah area.
Savannah,
Hmm.
transported. We're not talking about on a train. We're not talking about on a plane. We're not talking about in a car. We're talking about on a buggy. We're talking about after the voyage. We're talking about after the voyage under the ship, under the slave ships. Um, a horrific voyage. I went up to Charleston, South Carolina, to the African American Museum, and I couldn't get out of one room. And it was the one room that showed the voyage. That made me, it was very solemn in there to watch that. And that, so after the war, and as a lot of Georgia towns did, there are still some slave blocks in Georgia. What they did was they placed that Confederate memorial on top of that slave block. They just built it right on top of it. And in our county, to appease those like me and others who are repulsed by that Confederate memorial being there, um, they made a brick walkway up to the memorial of soldiers, Vietnam vets, World War II vets who fought in the war, and there's a brick pathway that Confederate memorial looks at. That's to appease African Americans to say, okay, you got a little piece over here too. And again, that was our last commissioner that we said goodbye to just here recently. But
And
that's a sentiment. Hmm.
this wasn't a monument that was put together in 1920, right?
No, 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 no,
This is a
sir.
modern monument.
Yeah, yeah. This is that, and like I say, we have a mindset as a people. This has brought us together in Hancock County as a people. and that we weren't before. We most of us commute. We commute to our jobs. We commute. We're not here from to see things going on. I commuted. My husband commuted every day to teach outside of the county. And then we have people, because there's no jobs here. We don't have jobs here. We don't have industry here. We don't own the bank. We don't own the businesses, the drugstores. You truly can say you step back in time, almost in the 60s here when you come here. But this has brought us together. This is saying, especially the election, that we have a voice. We've been on national news. People can see that through our prayer rallies, that we're coming together and that we have a voice, and that we're gonna fight this thing all the way through. That's why we're reaching out to other African Americans, white Americans, any Americans, because it can happen to you. It can
Absolutely.
happen to you with so many millionaires. Simeon, I thought about this one day. I was just thinking, with so many millionaires, it's not just for a train, it's for any utility. He just happens to be a train. So we've got millionaires who can say, you know what, I'm going to buy a water company. I don't like the water company. I don't like what the city and the county water. So I got enough money. I'm going to buy a water company because I'm going to guarantee people that their water is fresh and is coming from all these places, right? So these 25-year-olds who want to own this water company can purchase it, build it, have everything they need. And then they need a place to set this water company. They need a place where they can put the pipes and all the electricity and all this stuff. We got solar panels coming up everywhere now, these solar panels, because of these large tracts of land. And because of the solar energy. And all they got to do is say, you know what? I really like, Ariel, they're flying over. I really like that place. That's a really nice place to put
Have a
my
solar
business
farm.
there. Yeah, to have a solar
Mhm.
farm or have my water farm or have whatever I have. And I'm going to take that because now I have public use. See, that's what he's using, public use. I have public use. I'm going to get 15, I'm going to get 5 people to use my water place. Do you see how easy that can be?
Mhm.
And because the people who live over there, uh, I know they can't afford an attorney. I know they can't take me to court and challenge me. I'm just going to go in and put through the paperwork. And I'm going to use the Public Service Commission, by the way, I've given donations to. And that's exactly what he did. He used the Public Service Commission, then he used the courts. He used the courts to say, well, the Public Service Commission said I had it. One guy said I did. Then 5 other people said, well, the one hearing officer said he had it, so we're going to ditto him because he proved it. Oh, it goes on and on, Simeon. We've got to come. This is going to not be just a case for Georgia. This is going to be the Institute for Justice, who's an excellent pro bono law firm, says this is going to be a case for all Americans.
It sure is. And there's no way to fight against it unless you mobilize your community. And I love the fact that you've done that, that you've mobilized your community and
Mhm.
to advocate for you all's rights as property owners, as Americans.
Right,
Uh, you know, uh, that's not much liberty that you're getting in the pursuit of happiness and justice and all those things when you have big business that can come in and say, I want it and take it from you.
right, right. And then when you fight for your country, that's another, during the Vietnam era, We had so many soldiers who came back who fought for their country, died for their country, were maimed, disabled, all kinds of things. And they came back to this country. They couldn't use a GI Bill. They couldn't go to law school. They couldn't go to colleges. They couldn't use their home, their GI Bill for home ownership because they couldn't move in certain communities.
Yep.
They were mistreated. And that's how I feel right now. I feel that, my father serving in Vietnam, my son serving in Iraq, even my neighbors, the Garretts, their sons served in a war zone. That means nothing. It absolutely means nothing here in the United States. And then to have so many of our politicians go silent. I say when you're silent, when you don't choose a side, you have to choose a side. Up at the Capitol building, and thanks again to ADOS during the Georgia legislative session, where we were able to speak in the South Hall. It came through Representative Rua Roman. She was active in that, working with you all. Senator, State Representative Fry, he actually wrote a letter to the PSC laying out, how could you do that to these people's heritage? You need to consider that before you give him eminent domain. And then the other represented, but I want to say this, no one from our district, the politicians, the state representative, and our state senator, none of them came at that day. That was very disappointing. Folks, when you get ready to vote, you've got to look at your politician, the people who represent you. You've got to look at their track record. I do want to say the young man who's running for governor of Georgia, the Democrat that's running for governor of Georgia, I do want to say he did come up. He did stand there with us. And I just saw that in the news where he was running for governor of Georgia. He did. I called out Governor Kemp because Tar Button, guess what?
Where's the money?
He is on the Savannah Port Authority. He was appointed by Governor Kemp in November of 2022. We got our letters in April of 2022. He was appointed in November of 2022 to sit on that Port Authority. Now, I don't know this to be a fact, but you know what? It could have a lot to do with that Savannah Port Authority down there. The fact that they're coming through Hancock County, Georgia. There is a pathway.
Oh, absolutely. And intermodal travel, of goods, going from train to truck. That's a big business. Anywhere you have a port that is bringing in containers that need to be dispersed throughout the state. They're going to go from a ship generally to a train, and from a train to a truck.
Right.
And so I just find it so unfortunate that so many of our politicians haven't shown up for our community in this type of moment. And you mentioned being able to go to the Capitol and speak. What was that experience like for you?
I tell you what, Mr. Allen, he came on a Sunday, and he says he was. It wasn't just Mr. Allen. There were several others with him. I don't want to say everybody's name, but Allen was the one who made contact with the attorneys to get my name, and to set up the meeting. And so he was just, like I said, it's something you have to see. And I'm going to have to get enough people, even the media, CBS and ABC can't show everything. So he was like, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. This is such an injustice. He says, I'm going to reach out to the Black Caucus, legislative Black Caucus for you all. He said, I don't know if I can, because they only had like a week left in session.
In session,
And
yep.
he said, I don't know, Miss Smith, if we're going to be able to get you in there. And I was like, yeah, that probably ain't going to happen, especially since our representatives aren't doing anything and haven't done anything for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I give God all the glory and thank him for using ADOS and for getting us there. So it was, he called me like the next day and he says that, he came on Sunday. It was Monday. He called me on Tuesday and said, hey, they're going to see you on Wednesday. You can make it on Wednesday. And when he's like, I was like, oh, wait, what are we going to do? Tell me about this. I've never been there before. And he said, well, they're going to let you speak. It's going to be short. They're going to let you speak. And I said, okay, this is an opportunity that I really, really wanted. I really, really wanted. In fact, we had tried to put together something to go protest outside the Capitol, but we had a snowstorm and we couldn't make it. And so I just grabbed a couple of my husband and Miss Sally Garrett, and you can see them actually on that video. And it was very moving to be able to speak, to first of all have our Black legislators up there who were standing, ADOS standing behind us, our Black legislators standing behind us. And they told me I only had 5 minutes to speak, but I had more than that. I got very emotional because there was so many things going on. I had to elevate my voice because there were people with tours and the media was out there. But I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. I felt the presence of God, and I knew He had made this moment. And I called out that governor's name. I called his name out. You need to be a governor. And I understand he's running for senator. You need to be a governor for all people, not just the wealthy people in Georgia. You need to be a governor for all people. And we've been in this for 3 years. You say nothing. I would have more respect. It's just like I told Mr. Tarbutton. I've had opportunities to speak to him in board meetings before we voted our old board out. He would be in the board meetings because he had to get his land zoned. He had to get his land zoned industrial. And by the way, he's already laid track. Not on our property, on his. He's already laid track. He's got a track laid that goes nowhere. Can you believe that? It goes nowhere. But he had to get that done before the old administration left there, okay, to get that done. And so I was like, if you say nothing, and this goes for anybody, but especially our politicians, you could get up and at least say, well, I really don't know what to do. This is the law. And let's work through the law and let's start changing the law. We need the law change, like Representative Roman said, like she said. She said, we need to change the law. State Representative Fry, he said, we need to change the law. The Black legislators who were there, we need to change the law to make it fair. This is something, and that's another issue. This law was back in the 1800s. This was made back in the 1800s when when we needed railroads to run and transport things. But this is not the 1800s.
But to your point, there's a long history of using utilities to divide Black land as well.
Mm.
I've even seen or was told about my family in Crawford County, Georgia, out near Roberta,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, and that's where my father's family is from. And
Mm-hmm.
he told me about the experience of watching his grandfather be in
Wow.
conflict with the power company as they were trying to run power poles through their land so they could power the white families on the other side of the land. And part
Wow.
of the thing was they wanted to run the power lines through the land, but not power my great grandparents' home.
A
So
home. Wow.
they wanted to run through the land and not power my great grandfather and grandparents' home. And my
Home.
dad was raised primarily by his grandfather, and so they didn't want to power their home, and it was a conversation that my dad's grandfather had, which was around, well, you're going to have to re-put those poles every day because we're going to chop them down until we get
Oh,
power to
wow.
our house first.
Yes.
And so you're not going to go through our property to give someone else power and
Power.
not take
Right.
care of us. So I look at that kind of the same way, because they're giving a land lease to the white family and want to just run it through yours and take it.
Right.
They don't want to spread the money around
Right.
and ensure that families are adequately compensated. And so I think that there's a history of that. But, along with the history of the theft and the dispossession of
Mm-hmm.
land is a
Mm-hmm.
history of us fighting it. There's
Yes.
a history of us
Yes.
advocating. There's a
Yes.
history of us organizing and mobilizing people to fight against it. And
Yes.
so I'm honored to get to talk to you
Thank
and
you.
learn more about your story and your advocacy in fighting this railroad company. And what's the name of the railroad company, just so it can be out there?
Sandersville Railroad.
Sandersville Railroad, who is owned by Ben J. Tarbutton,
Ben J.
Benjamin
Tarbutton the third.
third.
The
Okay,
third. Yes.
I,
Ben J.
I
Tarbutton the third.
and and to my understanding, you haven't received anything back from Governor Kemp as well, correct? Like, you
Nothing.
haven't heard
Nothing.
anything from him. Ha-
No.
have you heard anything from and I know this may be out of their jurisdiction, but not out of their ability to pressure, from our US senators in Georgia?
No.
Uh no.
No.
And so
No. No. I
I
actually have a picture with Warnock and I when he was running, Senator Warnock. When he was running for office, I actually have a picture. No, have not. Now, I'm going to say this. I have been in touch with his transportation director.
okay,
His
good.
transportation director did reach out. He's not personally reached out, but his transportation director has uh, reached out to us, but they say they can't get involved in that area. That's right. But
Well,
that's it. That's it.
mhm.
It's like everybody wants to just stay clean. They want to stay clean of it and stay clear of it. So,
Yeah.
hmm
Well, again, I'm amazed by your bravery and your willingness to fight this fight. Know that the ADOS Advocacy Foundation stands with you.
thank you.
And for those that don't know, there's also a petition, and we'll make
Yes.
sure it's linked here so people can find it.
Yes, that's
There,
what I'm trying to find. Yes, it has. There is a petition out. Yes.
yep, and we want to show our support to the Smith family and to the other families in that community who are at risk of losing their land or part of their land to a railroad, who are at risk of having something like that happen without true community involvement, without true community comment, without a real aspect of due process. We want to stand with families who are fighting that fight. I think you're an exemplary example of the type of advocacy we need from our
Thank you.
community.
Yes,
Uh,
thank you.
and and we really thank you for joining the Critical Mass podcast today and sharing your story. And again, we support you, we support your family, we support your neighbors and your community in this fight. I'd love to give the last word to you. Anything else that you want our audience to know?
Um, First of all, this has been life altering and life changing for my family. Um, there's so many young people, white and black, who have come together. I just I it's I know it's all Jesus. I know it's all Jesus. And we've been able to pray. We're faith-based. We pray, we're praying people. There's no way in the world. It's been said it's a miracle that we've been able to keep Benjamin Tarbutton at bay for over 3 years. And we're not going to give up yet. Uh, Prayers, the petition, sharing our story. If you would just share our story with others, media does help. I found that
Mhm.
out. The media does help. Talking about it, it does help. So if you would share that for us, we would appreciate that. And don't ever, I was asked, what have you learned about all of this? Don't ever stop fighting for whatever it is you believe in, your children, your marriage, your home, your dreams. Don't ever stop fighting. Pray and take action every day. When I think about what else, Lord, can I do? What else can we do? Because I've had people say, "You're losing." I've had people say, "He's going to take that." And I say, "He hasn't done it yet. It's not done yet. And it's not over until the courts. He has to still go through the courts." And the Institute for Justice, when they came down and they saw, they said, "We're not going to give up. We're going to take this to the highest court." So if you could do something for us, pray that the Georgia Supreme Court will listen, but they have to take the case. It's not an automatic. Pray that the Georgia Supreme Court will take our case and that a stay will be put in place. A stay will be put in place until it is resolved in the courts. And I do appreciate everything that ADOS and any other organization has done for us.
Well, we appreciate you, Mrs. Smith. Thank you so much for your continued advocacy. Again, we support you and we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
For those that have been listening, please make sure you smash that like button. Also, make sure you share this episode. It's such an important topic, eminent domain, and how it affects our community. We have a real example here of how it's affecting families in Hancock County, Georgia, right now. Black families, ADOS families, and it's important that we stand with our fellow citizens in ensuring that they're able to keep and maintain their property. I am Simeon with the ADOS Advocacy Foundation and the Critical Mass Podcast. To learn more about the ADOS Advocacy Foundation, you can go to adosfoundation.org. That's ADOS foundation.org. Also, if you go to adosfoundation.org/GA, you will see information about this case. Down at the very bottom there, we have a blog post where the ADOS Advocacy Foundation put out a press release to provide some more insight and to express our support for the Smith family and other families who are experiencing eminent domain. Thank you all for your time today and continue to fight the fight needed for our people. We've got to build the critical mass needed for reparations and a transformative Black agenda. We believe we can do it. We know we can do it, but it's going to take all of us. Thank you all, and you all have a great evening.